Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In this video we're going through the Gold Coast versus Sydney game in the pre-season AAMI Community Series, going through the major injury ramifications as well as just players who stood up in general. So let's just jump into this recap. So Noah Anderson, he's an interesting one. 119, absolutely smashed it. Didn't really cop any attention from Sydney as much, to be honest with you, as they tried to almost play James Jordan as a genuine on-baller rather than sort of tagging. Noah Anderson kind of just took the mickey at that point, and as you see here with 40, 30, 32, and 17 in the last, it was on 102 at three-quarter time. Could this be the year that he finally really takes away those floor scores and still has the ceiling scores? That would mean he's probably going to gain 5 or so points and be ultra valuable in and around that top 8 to 10 area rather than sort of that 15 to 20. For midfielders, Joel Jeffrey, this is just, I think, a halfback preseason game that goes off. I don't think he's going to do that necessarily. I think it's more John Noble and also Daniel Rioli that's going to do that. Rioli also 71% TOG. He didn't do much in the last three quarters, to be honest with you, all of it in the first little bit, and Joel Jeffrey did a lot in the last quarter, so yeah, in the second half particularly, so that's as much take of it what you will, but I just think that Rioli's going to probably more likely to score that 90-95 than Joel Jeffrey is. Noble, 26 and 7, he was pretty good, 95 points as well, 74 break even for the year and 81% TOG. I think this is rare. He's probably going to average 90 or so, but yeah, we'll just see how that plays out in the end. And I just don't think he's a buy, to be honest with you. Ainsworth, 89, 83% TOG, 65, 2 goals. Just don't think he's going to do this consistently. And if we look at the quarter by quarter, he was one of the ones that took really advantage of the big last quarter. Closey with 2 goals, 89 as well. He was pretty good as well, and he was very big in the second quarter. I think he kicked both his goals in the second. 21, 2 and 5. He's a winger. He's going to have hot and cold games, and he's probably, I would say, going to average around about that 70, 75 range, so not much upside there. We talked about Rioli. Matt Rowell, he actually showed that he can get a lot of the ball. 31, 1 and 5. It was just the 5 free kicks against that really killed his scoring in fantasy with an 85. If he doesn't have those 5 free kicks against, he's probably looking at a 95 or so. And you can look at the quarter by quarter, 7, 31, 25, 22. I think he gave quite a few of those free kicks away in the first half. I think he was on 4 against at halftime. So yeah, quite a few given away in the first half. Witts dominated against Laddams and Green. He's not going to get that in the regular season, I don't think. Powell, 126 fans, Supercoach, 82 fantasy. Just don't expect him. I think Joel Jeffrey and Powell are probably going to swap it around a little bit there in terms of scoring. Humphreys was interesting to see if he got that on-ball role and how it would be utilised, but it just wasn't that good, that kind. And we know that Tuke Miller's coming back, so I'm not too interested in him. Hewlin, Rogers, Graham, Long, Buderick, none of these guys are too interesting. None of them really have low break-evens that are going to be attainable, I don't think. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the wingers for Gold Coast, but also we are monitoring heavily, and it could come out in a matter of recording, in this recording, whether or not this game is cancelled. So I'll keep you guys up to date on that. Well, I guess you guys would have known by the time that this goes live, it's probably going to go live at about 6 p.m. tonight, whether or so this game is getting canned alongside the Brisbane game. That'll be a big watch. But yeah, if Goulden and Jepson get a run in opening round, it could be interesting to see if they are actually good and get like a head start, or in terms of their cash flow and cash gen, or whether they just go in 30s and 40s and don't really do much in terms of scoring and really put their name forward too much. And then we had injuries, I think, to Swallow a PCL, I want to say 8 weeks is what I remember seeing, I think, when I was scrolling last night. And then also Mac Andrew, literally the first contest of the game outside of the CBA, injured. And I don't know whether, I think he's still a test though for opening round, and if they get to round 1, it should be a little bit clearer, and I would suspect he'd play if it was round 1. but round 0 might not. Then we move over to Sydney. Matty Roberts, 119, 112. I really, really liked just seeing the way in which he was used in the game. I know a lot of people will be like, oh, but he did this and that and everything, and he didn't go electric like we saw some of the Rosie and some other scores, but this is something that I really like to see from Roberts. If we actually go to his scoring here, the thing is, I really wanted to see the baseline score, and I felt like that was a more achievable, whereas if you look at these sort of these numbers here for Matty Roberts in terms of the big games here, and in terms of just the really small games here, you'll see that a lot of his he had a lot of very, very poor scoring where he had this and that and everything. So these were win games as well, which he isn't going to get. So I was just really intrigued to see he scored 91 in opening round last year and went on to average, I think it was, what would we say, 76. I think, and if you can run all the metrics behind it, but if you take away both his sub game, his green and red vests, as well as his win games, I think it goes up to 88, I want to say, if we just do this. And I know it looked bad that I'm not including these, but I'm pretty, this might have been a wing game, but it was low tog anyway. So that was wing, that was bad. I know it looked bad that it's all his lower scores, but he genuinely was playing wing on these scores. So if you do that for the regular season, he's averaging 93.5. So that's already plus 16 points, 17 points. I could see him improving that slightly even more and going up towards that 100 or so marker. But even if he just goes 94, 95, he's still, this is exactly, I think, what Jordan Clark did last year. So let me just bring up Jordan Clark. I think he was a very, very similar position last year. And it turned out to, look at that. Pretty much awfully similar. So I think he could do something what Jordan Clark did last year, 0.2 to 0.91. If we look at Matty Roberts there as well, I think you're going to see 0.83, so a little bit up there compared to Jordan Clark, but his scoring is definitely there, and he does have the ability just to take marks. As he's basically the one used on the switches and everything, and he's got a really good disposal efficiency, so I expect him to be the one that is the most value for Sydney early on, or at least I should say throughout the first 6-7 weeks. Jordan, 106, he was really good, but I expect him to probably fill a little bit more wing role because of Gulden going down. McInerney as well, more wing role because of that. Lloyd, these are basically the three wingers for Sydney, I'd suspect, when the season rolls around, because of Errol Gulden fracturing his foot or something, I think it was. And then you've got Sheldrick, a 22 possession, 94 is really good. C plus 50, and this is what I'm saying. If he gets opening round and goes 75 plus or so, it could be really interesting. There's still a lot of debate whether he should be played, but if you look at what Sydney's lost in terms of why did they lose the grand final, it was because of contested possessions and getting beat on the inside. And if you look at the players that have been also lost in pre-season, Callum Mills was supposed to be that fix-it guy. Errol Gulden's one of the better flankers that can actually play on ball. So even though you probably want him on the outside. So I don't think they should be really trying to get McInerney and guys like that on ball when you have an Angus Sheldrick who did butcher the ball at like 48% or something like that. But he at least is getting contested possession. So that's why I think he needs to be played on ball, just to give, not to over-rely on wingers playing out of position almost in a way, because Sydney is known for being too flanker heavy, and not playing Sheldrick would be a sort of nod to that and would mean that they sort of haven't learnt from the grand final. Rowbottom did his thing. Corey Warner, 67, 1 goal. Did spray it a little bit, as you can see with the Supercoach score being lower. But yeah, his role is there. You'd expect him to line up. He's been impressive this preseason. Hamling, Bias is just behind, even now Witt, it looks like, as well as Patton, and behind Florent easily. Florent as well, just down below him, played a little bit more time on ground for a same fantasy score. Handley, he was impressive. I don't think he gets the gig over Corey Warner. Corey Warner just signed that contract extension, plus he's also been one of the better, I guess, players in terms of this preseason, as well as in the Rezzies last year. Patton, 54 points, he was pretty good. Adams, I just don't see there being a spot there with his lack of pace, but maybe they go with Adams in the midfield over Sheldrick, but I think that would be rather disappointing given that Sheldrick is the future of, well, should be a future on-baller for many sides, and I feel like this could be the year that he finally ships off if he doesn't actually get that role at Sydney. And then you've got Amati, he was dominant and should be one of the two key forwards that Sydney go for. Kirk, Wicks was actually pretty good in his role at halfback. Blakey didn't play a half footy, and that's sort of where you get the Radley bias, where you look at that and you sort of see that they combine for 100%, so that's sort of a swapping of the role as Blakey sat in the second half. Mitchell, 16 touches for 39, wasn't great. He could easily just be the sub. Hayward and Campbell had classic sort of half-forward games where they don't actually hit on the scoreboard, so it looks rather deflating, I would say, their scores and just their involvement. Green, he looked all right against Ethan Reid. I thought he won that mini contest there. Obviously got done over by Jared Witts, but that's understandable. Riek Andrew, not going to play, and neither of these guys are going to play. I'm just saying that they're really good for the future. And then Laddams as well. We'll see what Sydney do with Grundy, if Grundy gets up or not. But I just don't expect Laddams to score that well, particularly only 40% TOG. They seem to want Will Green out there a little bit more. And I don't think Will Green is necessarily ready per se. So it'll be, I think if Brodie Grundy goes down, I don't think they'll expose Will Green for one game against the Hawks. Against Meek, which... yeah, I just don't think they'll do that, to be honest with you. I think they'll just rely on getting through with Laddams. And then obviously Gulden injury, kicked a goal early and then got himself... it was a hip drop tackle that just broke his ankle, and he'll be out for 8 to 12 weeks, it looks like. So that sucks for Sydney. But when there's chaos, there's opportunity, and the opportunity, I think, falls on Corey Warner and Sheldrick now until Mills comes back. So, yeah, I'm hoping Sheldrick is played, but we'll see how that is. But anyway, that is the video there going through the Gold Coast versus Sydney game review in the pre-season. You'll see the 3-game preview up next, which I'll review, which I'll go through very quickly. But if you did enjoy that video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on YouTube, and if you are listening on Spotify, give me a follow and a rating over there, and I'll see you guys for the 3-game review next. See you guys then. Bye guys.